You weren't supposed to grow up that fast. While others learned how to play, you were learning how to survive. You stopped believing in magic the day you realized no one was coming to save you. And since then, you've been carrying the weight of the world in silence, pretending it's just maturity, when really it's exhaustion wearing wisdom as a mask. You learned to carry too much too early. Before you even knew what responsibility meant, you were already holding pieces of everyone else's chaos, their anger, their silence, their fears. You became the one who understood too much for your age, the one who smiled when things were falling apart, the one who listened when no one listened to you. Maybe it started in small ways, remembering things your parents forgot, calming someone down when you were the one who needed comfort, pretending to be fine so others wouldn't worry. But slowly it became a habit. You learned that peace only existed when you held everything together. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't live in the body but in the soul, the kind that comes from being emotionally awake in a world that kept asking you to sleep. You became the quiet observer, the child who felt too responsible, the adult who feels too tired. You look around now and see people your age laughing easily, still soft, still curious. And part of you wonders, how did they keep their light? Because yours dimmed while you were busy being the strong one. You didn't lose your youth, it was spent protecting others from their storms. You call it being mature, but deep down, you know it was survival. Maturity sounds noble, survival feels lonely. You didn't grow wiser because you chose to, you grew wiser because life didn't give you another option. People tell you that you're so composed, so calm, so emotionally stable. They mean it as a compliment, but you know better. They don't see the stillness that comes from exhaustion. They don't see the discipline that was once fear. Fear of making a mistake, fear of losing control, fear of being too much or not enough. It's strange, isn't it? How people mistake your silence for peace, your patience for strength, your detachment for wisdom. They admire your ability to stay calm while the world burns, but they don't realize you learned that skill because you once lived in a house that was always on fire. You were the emotional firefighter, the one who put out everyone else's flames. But no one taught you what to do once the fire was gone. No one told you how to rest. Sometimes you catch yourself apologizing for things that aren't your fault. That's the residue of early responsibility, the belief that you are somehow to blame for everything that goes wrong. It's the ghost of the child who thought, if I can fix it, maybe they'll stop fighting. If I'm perfect, maybe they'll love me more. If I disappear, maybe everything will finally be quiet. You didn't grow up with freedom, you grew up with tension. Every smile was a negotiation, every silence a way to keep the peace. That's how a child becomes older than their age, not through time but through vigilance. You became hyper-aware, always scanning the room for danger, sensing moods, predicting outcomes. It made you intuitive, empathetic, even wise, but it also made you tired, deeply tired. Because while everyone else was learning how to live, you were learning how not to collapse. You wear your self-control like armor now. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps love at a distance. Because control is easier than vulnerability, and safety feels more realistic than joy. Sometimes you meet people who remind you of the softness you lost. They laugh too loud, they trust too easily, they still believe in simple things. And for a moment, you feel something crack open inside you, a kind of grief mixed with envy. You don't want to take their light, you just wish you still had yours. And maybe, somewhere deep down, you do. It's just buried under years of holding everything together. You've mistaken endurance for strength and independence for peace. But they're not the same. You don't have to keep being the strong one. You just forgot what it feels like to be held. You grew up believing that love had to be earned. That to deserve care, you first had to prove your usefulness. So you learned to fix, to help, to anticipate every need before anyone even asked. It made you reliable, indispensable even, but it also made you invisible. Because when you're always the one holding everything together, no one thinks to ask who's holding you. Your competence became your camouflage. People admired how you never seemed to fall apart, unaware that you simply learned how to collapse quietly behind closed doors. You measure safety not by joy but by control. When life feels predictable, you breathe easier. Uncertainty feels dangerous, spontaneity feels reckless. You call it being organized, but sometimes it's just fear disguised as order. There are nights when your mind won't turn off. You replay every conversation, every mistake, every possibility. You analyze yourself until the edges blur. Was I too cold, too soft, too much, not enough? It's an endless loop of accountability, where you take responsibility even for the things you couldn't change. You became the parent to your own emotions, the therapist to your own pain. You learned to self-soothe because no one else knew how. You learned to downplay your needs because they always seemed inconvenient. So now, when someone asks what you need, you hesitate, because you genuinely don't know anymore. It's not that you dislike comfort, it's that comfort feels unfamiliar. Rest feels guilty. Peace feels suspicious. Happiness feels temporary, like a guest that won't stay long. You've carried chaos for so long that calm feels unnatural. Your nervous system waits for the next alarm even when the world is finally quiet. That's the cost of growing up too soon. You never learned what it means to simply exist without preparing for impact. You call it being independent, but sometimes it's just isolation with better branding. Because independence born from survival isn't freedom, it's armor. And armor can keep you safe, but it also keeps out everything that could heal you. You tell yourself you're fine because it's easier than explaining the exhaustion. You minimize your own pain because you know others have it worse. You've become fluent in the language of self-dismissal. I'm fine. It's not that bad. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. You matter. The world trained you to believe that strength is silence, that vulnerability is weakness, that asking for help is failure. But strength isn't the absence of need, it's the courage to admit that you have them. You're not broken because you struggle to rest. You're human. You've been living in survival mode for so long that peace feels like a foreign language. And learning peace after chaos is like learning to walk again, slow, shaky, and brave. Sometimes, when you look at old photos of yourself, you don't recognize the child staring back. There's innocence there that feels almost fictional. But that child is still you, the part of you that deserved softness, laughter, and safety. They never disappeared, they just went quiet, waiting for permission to come home. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't have to keep proving your worth through endurance. You deserve a life that doesn't require constant recovery. You deserve to exhale without guilt. Maybe healing isn't about becoming someone new. Maybe it's about returning to the version of you that existed before the world told you to grow up so fast. The one who laughed without checking if it was appropriate. The one who believed rest was safe. The one who didn't confuse calm with danger. You've spent years living with your feelings turned down to a whisper. It wasn't a choice, it was protection. When emotions became too loud, you learned to mute them, to keep everything contained behind the calm expression everyone praised you for. Anger felt dangerous. Sadness felt inconvenient. Joy felt too fragile to trust. So you began to live in the middle, not too high, not too low. Safe there in the gray. Predictable. Controlled. But safety isn't the same as peace. It's just silence with walls around it. There's a difference between not hurting and truly healing. You've mastered the art of not hurting. You function, you smile, you do what's expected, but part of you knows you haven't really exhaled in years. Sometimes a song, a smell, or a quiet moment catches you off guard and something cracks. Tears come out of nowhere. Not from current pain, but from stored pain, the kind that never found a place to go. That's the body remembering what the mind tried to forget. You tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. But feelings don't follow logic, they follow memory. Every time you swallowed your sadness, it stayed. Every time you said, I'm fine, it waited. And now those emotions knock softly from inside, asking, is it safe to come out yet? Healing doesn't start with joy. It starts with permission. Permission to feel what you never got to feel when you needed it most. You can't rush that process. You can only create the conditions where it's finally safe to feel again. That's the paradox of the strong ones. The world sees discipline, but inside there's longing, a quiet craving for softness, for someone who says, you can rest now. The hardest thing for you isn't responsibility, it's surrender. You've spent so long holding the world together that the idea of letting someone hold you feels foreign, even threatening. You equate vulnerability with danger because once it was. To you, being open meant being exposed, needing meant being neglected. So you built independence like a fortress, brick by brick, until even love had to knock. But love doesn't want to invade, it wants to enter. And for that, you'll have to open the door from the inside. Sometimes you catch yourself sabotaging good things, pulling away just when someone gets close. It's not that you don't want closeness, it's that closeness reminds you of all the times it wasn't safe. You want to trust, but your nervous system still flinches at gentleness. You crave connection, but you fear dependence. You want intimacy, but you fear being seen. You long for freedom, but you also long to be cared for. It's a constant tug-of-war between the adult who says, "I'm fine alone," and the inner child who whispers, "Please don't leave me again." And maybe that's what healing really is, not eliminating the contradictions, but learning to let them coexist. To hold both truths at once, that you are self-sufficient and deserving of care, that you can be strong and still need softness. The child inside you doesn't need you to be perfect. They just need you to stop being the parent and start being the protector. Not from others this time, but for yourself. You can start small. Notice when you shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Notice when you say yes but mean no. Notice when you feel tension in your chest every time you try to rest. That's your body saying, it's okay to stop performing now. Healing isn't dramatic. It's subtle. It's learning to eat slowly without guilt. It's sitting in silence without panic. It's smiling because you mean it, not because you're supposed to. You spent your childhood becoming older than your age. Now, as an adult, healing will mean becoming younger again, not childish but free. Because you don't need to earn the right to rest. You were born with it. There comes a moment in every exhausted soul when survival is no longer enough. You start to notice how small your world has become, how every decision is filtered through fear, through habit, through a silent question. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? But somewhere beneath that constant caution, another voice whispers, what if you're finally safe now? What if you don't have to keep proving yourself anymore? At first, you don't trust that voice. It feels naive. You've lived too long inside vigilance to believe in safety. Peace feels suspicious, like the calm before another storm. So when life starts to soften, you flinch. When someone offers kindness, you analyze it. When you feel joy, you brace for the moment it disappears. Healing starts here, in the discomfort of ease. It's learning that not every silence is danger, that not every calm moment is a trap, that sometimes quiet is just quiet. You start to rebuild slowly, like someone learning to walk after years of crawling through fire. Your body doesn't trust peace yet, it trembles when nothing goes wrong, but you keep breathing anyway. You let the stillness stay a little longer each time. There's no manual for this kind of recovery. You won't wake up one day and suddenly feel whole. It's more like remembering, piece by piece, what safety feels like, not in your head but in your body. Safety isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of gentleness. It's knowing you can cry without punishment. It's knowing you can rest without falling behind. It's knowing that you can say no and still be loved. And so you begin to test this new truth. You stop saying yes automatically. You start telling people when you're tired, when you're scared, when you need space. It feels awkward at first, like speaking a language you once knew but forgot how to pronounce. But each honest word becomes a small act of rebellion against your old self. You used to equate control with safety. Now you're starting to realize that safety is actually found in trust, in allowing life to move without needing to grip it so tightly. That's where softness lives, in the spaces you once called weakness. There's a certain beauty in beginning again. It's fragile, yes, but real. You begin to find wonder in ordinary things. The taste of morning air, the sound of laughter, the warmth of sunlight on your skin. You notice that life doesn't always need to be managed. Sometimes it just wants to be experienced. You start to forgive yourself for all the years you spent in survival. For the boundaries you didn't set because you were too afraid to lose people. For the emotions you buried because no one could hold them with you. For the times you mistook exhaustion for strength. You realize that healing isn't a straight path, it's a spiral. You'll revisit old wounds from new levels of awareness. You'll still get tired. You'll still doubt. But now you won't abandon yourself when it happens. You'll stay. You'll listen. You'll breathe. The child inside you, the one who grew up too fast, starts to wake up slowly. They blink in confusion. The world looks softer now. You let them laugh without explaining why. You let them cry without shame. You let them play without purpose. That's what reconstruction looks like. Not grand, not perfect, just alive. It's giving yourself permission to be human again, not a machine built from resilience. To be warm, messy, inconsistent, curious. To let life touch you instead of managing how it's allowed to reach you. And one day, almost without realizing it, you'll find yourself smiling for no reason at all. Not because you achieved something, not because you earned rest, but because, for once, existing feels enough. That's when you'll know you've begun to live again. Not survive. What? You've spent most of your life trying to be enough for everyone else. But the truth is, you were never meant to carry that much. You were supposed to be held, not tested. To grow slowly, not to be rushed into adulthood by chaos and circumstance. And yet, here you are, still standing, still trying, still searching for softness in a world that rewarded your strength but ignored your exhaustion. That alone makes you extraordinary. Because despite everything, a part of you still believes in healing. A part of you still believes there's more to life than endurance. Maybe that's what wisdom really is, not knowing everything but choosing to stay open after you've seen how much it can hurt. You've seen the worst sides of love, yet you still want to love deeply. You've been disappointed by people, yet you still want to understand them. You've been exhausted by life, yet you still want to live. That's courage. That's humanity. The world told you to be the strong one, and you listened. But strength doesn't always look like silence or control. Sometimes it looks like tears you finally let fall. Sometimes it sounds like asking for help without shame. Sometimes it feels like lying still on a quiet afternoon, doing nothing and realizing you're safe. You don't have to fix yourself. You were never broken, only burdened. And the parts of you that once felt too much are the same parts that make you capable of loving so deeply now. That's the hidden gift of early responsibility. It taught you empathy before experience, compassion before understanding. But now, it's time to use that gift differently, not to carry others, but to care for yourself with the same devotion you once gave away. Let yourself become soft again. Let laughter sound louder than worry. Let your shoulders drop. Let the world see you as you are, not the version that performs, but the one that breathes. The next chapter of your life won't be about surviving. It will be about living gently. It will be about learning to trust peace, to build slow mornings, to choose people who feel like home instead of projects to repair. And when that voice inside says, "You haven't done enough," you'll answer, "I've done enough just by being here." Because being here, after everything, is proof that you've already won. You've already broken the cycle. You've already become the person the younger you needed most. So breathe. You made it. And now the story of your healing begins. If these words found you, it's because you needed the reminder. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're just healing from years of carrying too much. Stay here. Let's walk this path together, slowly, gently, one truth at a time. Subscribe and let every new story be a mirror that helps you remember who you are becoming. You don't feel lonely because you have no one. You feel lonely because the right people can't find you behind the walls you built to survive. If your phone is quiet, if the room gets louder when you enter it, if you celebrate little wins in silence and grieve in secret, this is for you. Your brain isn't broken. It adapted. It learned to keep you safe by keeping you distant. But adaptation isn't destiny. In the next minutes, I'll show you why friendlessness isn't a flaw in you. It's a story your nervous system wrote when it had no choice, and how you can start rewriting it without pretending to be someone else. Take a breath. Stay with me. You might finally understand why connection has felt so hard, and why it's not too late for you. There's a particular kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It's the kind that sits in your chest, not in the air. The kind that doesn't comfort you, it follows you. You notice it most when your phone lights up, but it's only a notification, not a message from someone who truly knows you. You notice it in rooms full of people where laughter swells and fades and you realize none of it reaches you. It's not solitude. It's something heavier, a quiet that doesn't rest. It's the sound of existing without reflection, of being unseen for so long that you begin to forget what being seen even feels like. Millions live inside that kind of silence. Not because they want to, not because they reject the world, but because somewhere along the way, connection became complicated. People assume loneliness is a symptom of antisocial behavior, of preferring isolation. But the psychology behind friendlessness is rarely so simple. It's a map of old memories, protective instincts, invisible walls, each built for a reason that made sense once. Together they create a cycle that's difficult to break, even when you desperately want to. When psychologists study social isolation, they find something extraordinary. The brain doesn't simply miss connection. It rewires itself to survive without it. Neural pathways that once translated expressions and tone and subtle cues begin to dim. The mind, starved of interaction, forgets how to dance the language of faces. Not from weakness, but from adaptation. It learns to navigate silence instead of sound. No one chooses this path overnight. It happens slowly, through moments that barely register at first. A forgotten invitation. A joke that lands wrong. A betrayal dressed as friendship. A best friend who drifts away not with a fight but with time. Each small wound teaches the same lesson. Closeness hurts. Vulnerability brings risk. The brain listens and takes notes. It rewires again. It tells you to stay a little quieter next time. To share less. To need less. To protect more. At first that strategy works. You avoid the sting of disappointment. You stop expecting loyalty from people who only offer convenience. But protection, when repeated too often, becomes a prison. The walls that once kept pain out begin to keep everything out. Joy, laughter, new stories, even the possibility of being known. You tell yourself you're fine alone, but the silence betrays you. Most of the time, people trapped in isolation aren't cold or unfriendly. They are hyper-aware. Their senses are tuned to danger where others see none. A slow reply to a text becomes a rejection. A change in tone sounds like judgment. The smallest shift in someone's attention feels like proof that you don't matter. You read every social moment like a code you're certain you're misreading. That vigilance is exhausting. And ironically, it pushes people away, the very outcome you feared. Inside the quiet, something else grows louder, your own voice. When external conversation disappears, internal conversation fills the space. You replay old scenes in your head, analyzing every word you said, every expression you misread. You rehearse future ones too, inventing lines for moments that may never come. You build imaginary friendships, full of laughter and understanding, so detailed they almost feel real. But when you open your eyes, the room hasn't changed. The silence is still there, patient and heavy. That inner world becomes both refuge and cage. It's the one place where you can be fully yourself, unfiltered, honest, safe from judgment. Yet without another mind to balance your thoughts, they loop and twist until meaning distorts. You become the only witness to your life, the only judge, the only audience. You know exactly how to comfort others, yet not yourself. You can sense insincerity across a room but struggle to believe sincerity when it's offered. You crave authenticity so fiercely that you distrust it when it appears. The irony is that many who live without close friends develop extraordinary empathy. Watching from the outside teaches you patterns others miss. You can see when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes, when their laughter bends under strain. You feel the emotional weather of a room. But that awareness, without outlets, becomes a burden. You read too much, feel too deeply, think too long. You crave a conversation that doesn't skim the surface, but each time you approach one, fear intercepts. You tell yourself not to scare people away with your intensity. You dilute yourself for safety. So you wait for someone who feels safe enough, steady enough, real enough to meet you where you live emotionally. You want a connection where silence isn't awkward, where you don't have to translate yourself into smaller, simpler pieces. Yet while you wait, others mistake your stillness for disinterest. They back away politely, confirming your suspicion that no one stays. It's not rejection, it's misunderstanding layered over misunderstanding. Without the mirror of friendship, your self-image warps. You begin to see only your flaws, magnified by the quiet. You forget your strengths because no one reflects them back. When someone finally shows interest, it feels impossible to trust. You imagine hidden motives. You assume it's temporary. You start to believe that if they really saw you, you're overthinking your need for depth, they'd leave too. So you protect them from the real you. You smile, keep it light, and then wonder later why no one seems to know you. And yet, beneath all of this, what remains is not emptiness, it's hunger. People without friends often love deeper than anyone. They know what absence feels like. They value connection with a kind of reverence others rarely understand. They don't want endless company. They want one person who sees them clearly and stays anyway. They want a friendship where silence feels like safety, not punishment. They want truth over talk, presence over performance. But that craving for depth has a cost. It can make lighter conversations feel pointless. It can make early stages of friendship unbearable, like acting in a play you've already outgrown. You want to skip the small talk and jump straight to meaning. Yet real trust takes time. It grows in layers of ordinary moments. Rejecting those small beginnings means you might never reach the middle, the place where real connection lives. Time itself begins to change shape. Without shared memories, days lose their edges. You forget weekends. You forget what month the memory belongs to because there were no markers. No dinners, no trips, no photos, no witnesses. The calendar feels flat. And then something small happens. A stranger smiles, a coworker asks how you've been, and you overanalyze it for hours because it was the only thread of human warmth that day. You replay it, dissect it, wonder if it meant something more. It rarely does. But the hope it stirs keeps you searching. Solitude becomes both mastery and trap. You've learned to be self-sufficient, to fill your own evenings, to create meaning alone. You paint, you write, you walk, you listen to music until the notes feel like companionship. But comfort can harden into habit. The longer you live inside solitude, the heavier doors become. Socializing starts to feel like travel to a foreign country whose language you once spoke but now only half remember. The more foreign it feels, the more anxious you become. And anxiety teaches avoidance. Each avoided encounter confirms that you were safer staying home. The cycle tightens. After a while, even basic conversation feels like a performance. You edit sentences mid-air. You wonder if your tone sounds off, if your eyes look strange. You measure your laughter. What was once instinctive becomes calculated. You start thinking about how to appear relaxed instead of being relaxed. Every word becomes a line you rehearse. Every silence a test you think you're failing. It's like remembering how to ride a bicycle while walking on stage. You wobble, you overcorrect, and the joy of movement disappears. Society adds pressure in ways you don't always notice. It expects milestones to include people. Friends at your birthday, plus ones at weddings, companions for holidays. When you have none, you feel like you've missed some essential part of being human. So you hide it. You say you're busy, you say you're tired, you say you prefer quiet nights in. You build excuses to shield yourself from pity or questions you can't answer. But pretending you're fine doesn't make you fine. It just multiplies the silence. The performance is exhausting. Smiling when you don't feel seen is exhausting. Laughing in groups that don't know you is exhausting. You start declining invitations because pretending connection hurts more than absence. People assume you're distant by choice, but really you're protecting what's left of your honesty. And then there's the digital world, the place that promises connection while deepening the ache. You scroll through feeds full of friends, vacations, dinner tables crowded with faces. Everyone seems to belong somewhere. You watch life unfold in bright squares while you sit in the dim light of your own room. You tell yourself it's not real, that those smiles are curated, but still, the comparison hurts. It reminds you how human you are, to crave reflection, to want to be part of someone's memory. Yet online spaces can also be lifelines. Anonymous corners of the internet become safe havens. You write, you share, you connect with strangers who understand pieces of you that no one in real life has seen. For a while it helps. You find fragments of belonging scattered across screens. But when you log off, the air feels colder. The silence returns louder than before because now you've remembered what being heard feels like. The longer you live inside that rhythm of silence, the more it starts to shape your emotions. Without someone to share your experiences with, feelings pile up like letters you never send. Joy arrives but feels incomplete. You smile at something beautiful, a song, a memory, a sunrise, but there's no one to turn to and say, look. Without that exchange, even happiness feels fragile, like light fading too soon. Sadness, on the other hand, lingers. It stretches across days because there's no one there to divide it, to say, I understand. And anger, when it comes, has nowhere to go except inward, burning quietly until it becomes fatigue. Humans aren't built to process emotions alone. Our nervous systems regulate through connection, through presence, through small gestures that tell us we belong. When that's gone for too long, you start to live entirely inside your head. You analyze everything, your words, your tone, your value. You become your own echo, trying to make sense of things that were never meant to be handled in isolation. You develop emotional endurance but lose emotional ease. Over time, this turns into a kind of emotional hoarding. You keep stories, thoughts, and feelings locked away for the right person who might someday arrive. You imagine telling them everything, the moments you've stored up like treasures. But when someone finally does appear, you find it almost impossible to open up. There's too much. The words feel heavy, outdated, strange. You realize you've spent so long preparing to be understood that you've forgotten how to simply talk. That's the paradox of friendlessness. It gives you depth, but it also makes your depth hard to share. The same sensitivity that allows you to see people so clearly can also make connection terrifying. You crave truth, but you're afraid it will scare people away. You want intimacy, but you fear rejection more than you desire closeness. So you stay still, hoping someone will read the language of your quiet and step closer anyway. On the good days, hope still flickers. You imagine new beginnings, a class, a trip, a stranger who becomes something more. You tell yourself maybe this time will be different. On the bad days, you convince yourself you're built for solitude, that peace is better than disappointment. You oscillate between longing and acceptance, between reaching out and retreating. It's not weakness, it's protection that simply overstayed its welcome. Rejection, real or imagined, begins to cut deeper. A slow reply becomes proof of disinterest. A canceled plan feels like confirmation that you're unworthy. Your mind builds narratives faster than reality can correct them. And in those narratives, you're always the one left behind. It's not that you lack confidence, it's that you've been alone long enough to stop expecting reciprocity. You've learned to fill every silence yourself, to anticipate abandonment before it happens. And yet, something beautiful still grows in people who live this way. Without constant validation, you begin to know yourself differently. You find meaning in quiet hobbies, in art, in music, in nature. You develop a level of self-understanding that few ever reach. You learn what truly matters to you, not what earns approval but what actually sustains your soul. You discover that solitude, while painful, can also be a form of freedom. You stop performing. You start observing. You realize that your worth isn't defined by how many people understand you, but by how deeply you understand yourself. Still, the world outside doesn't stop expecting. Society is built for groups. It celebrates extroversion. It rewards visibility. It measures happiness in shared photos and mutual laughter. When you live outside that rhythm, you start to feel like you're missing something essential. You start to believe you're broken. But you're not. You're just carrying an experience most people never slow down enough to notice, the raw ache of disconnection in a world obsessed with noise. Even your body begins to adapt to the isolation. Your sleep patterns shift. Nights stretch longer because the quiet hours remind you of what's missing. You notice details others overlook. The hum of appliances, the echo of your footsteps, the way light moves across an empty room. You become a silent anthropologist of human behavior, watching groups form, dissolve, reform, always from a distance. You see everything yet remain unseen. Home changes meaning too. It becomes both your refuge and your cage. It's the only place where you can drop your guard, where you don't have to perform. But that safety can become seductive. You start to hesitate before leaving. The outside world feels unpredictable, full of conversations you've forgotten how to navigate. So you stay home, telling yourself it's temporary until it becomes routine. And that routine, comfortable as it feels, quietly steals years. Technology complicates this even more. Social media blurs the line between connection and performance. You see everyone else surrounded by friends, partners, adventures. You tell yourself it's curated, but the ache remains. You scroll through endless proof that you're not where you think you should be, forgetting that most people are performing their own highlight reels, hiding their own silences behind filters and captions. What you're comparing your reality to is often illusion, but your pain is real. And yet, the digital world offers something genuine too. Hidden in the noise are small corners of understanding, forums, communities, messages that remind you that others feel this way too. You realize you're not alone in your loneliness. You begin to see that isolation is not a character flaw. It's not proof that you're unlovable or broken. It's often the echo of old wounds, defenses that once kept you safe but now keep you stuck. It's your mind's way of saying, you've been hurt but you're still here. And here's the truth. The very traits that make isolation painful are the same ones that make you extraordinary. Your depth, your perception, your sensitivity, they're not weaknesses. They're the tools that will eventually allow you to form connections that are real, honest, and lasting. But those connections can only happen if you stop hiding behind your understanding of pain. The same mind that built the walls can also build the bridge. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need a crowd. You just need one honest connection, one moment of vulnerability, one small risk. Healing doesn't look like a party, it looks like a quiet conversation that feels easy for the first time in years. It looks like saying yes when your instinct says to retreat. It looks like forgiving yourself for needing people again. The psychology of people without friends isn't about failure. It's about resilience. It's about the ways we adapt to survive, even when survival means forgetting how to reach out. But forgetting isn't the same as losing. The capacity for connection doesn't disappear, it waits. Beneath the fear, beneath the hesitation, beneath the long-rehearsed self-protection, something inside you still remembers how to belong. You've always known what friendship could feel like. You just stopped believing it could be yours. So, if you're listening to this right now, take a breath. You're not invisible. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just human, learning again what it means to be seen. Let this be your reminder. You are allowed to begin again. You are allowed to reach out. You are allowed to hope. And maybe, just maybe, the silence that once felt like emptiness can become peace again. If this message found you, it's because a part of you is ready to reconnect. Stay a while. Subscribe, listen, and let every new story remind you, you're not alone anymore.